Instant coffee accounts for about 34% of global coffee consumption, with significant regional variation. In the UK, instant coffee is more dominant. Around 80% of households buy it for home use, and it represents roughly 45 to 50% of total coffee purchased. For most people in the world, this is how they drink coffee. But how does coffee go from liquid to powder that dissolves instantly in hot water? And why does it taste so different from freshly brewed coffee? The answers involve industrial-scale processing, controlled evaporation, and the loss of volatile compounds that give coffee its characteristic aroma. Instant coffee is brewed coffee that's had nearly all its water removed. A cup of brewed coffee is about 98.5% water and 1.5% dissolved coffee solids. Instant coffee reverses that ratio. It's the 1.5% solids in concentrated shelf-stable form. When you add hot water, you're essentially reconstituting brewed coffee. The challenge is removing 98.5% of the water without destroying the flavor compounds that make coffee taste like coffee. This is harder than it sounds. About 70% of instant coffee uses Robusta beans, not Arabica. This happens for specific technical and economic reasons. Robusta contains roughly double the caffeine of Arabica, 2.2 to 2.7% versus 1.2 to 1.5%. Higher caffeine content means more bitter compounds, but it also means Robusta extracts more thoroughly during industrial brewing. You get more dissolved solids per kilo of beans, which matters when you're processing at scale. Robusta is also more stable during processing. The beans have higher chlorogenic acid content, which contributes to bitterness. Arabica's delicate aromatic compounds, the fruity, floral notes that specialty coffee values, are fragile. They don't survive industrial processing well. Economics also drive this choice. Robusta yields are higher, costs are lower, and global supply is more consistent. When you're manufacturing millions of jars annually, consistency and cost control determine whether your business works. Some premium instant coffees use 100% Arabica or Arabica Robusta blends, but they're targeting a different market at a higher price point. Instant coffee manufacturers brew coffee in extraction towers that can process several tons of beans per hour. These are industrial vessels operating continuously. Ground coffee enters at the top of the tower. Hot water, typically 150 to 180 degrees Celsius under pressure, enters at the bottom. The water moves upward through the coffee grounds in a countercurrent flow, extracting soluble compounds as it rises. By the time the water reaches the top, it's loaded with dissolved coffee solids. This is the coffee extract. The spent grounds exit at the bottom. The liquid extract, now containing 15 to 30% coffee solids, moves to the concentration stage. This extraction happens under pressure, which allows water temperatures above 100 degrees Celsius without boiling. Higher temperatures extract more quickly and thoroughly, but they also extract different compounds than you'd get from a French press at 93 degrees Celsius. This affects flavor. The brewed extract is too diluted to dry efficiently. It needs to be concentrated to 40 to 50% coffee solids before drying. This happens through evaporation. Most manufacturers use vacuum evaporation, which works like this. Reduce the air pressure in a sealed chamber, and water boils at lower temperatures. At 0.1 bar pressure, water boils at about 45 degrees Celsius instead of 100 degrees. Coffee's aromatic compounds are volatile and evaporate along with water at high temperatures, so lower boiling temperatures preserve more aromatics. The concentrate that results is thick, dark, and intensely coffee-flavored. but it still lost significant aromatic complexity compared to fresh brewed coffee. Some manufacturers capture the vapor from evaporation, condense it, and extract aromatic compounds from this condensate. These aromatics get added back to the final product. This is called aroma recovery, and it's why some instant coffees smell better than others. Spray drying produces about 80% of the world's instant coffee. It's fast, economical, and produces a fine powder. The concentrated coffee extract is pumped through an atomizer, essentially a high-pressure nozzle that turns liquid into a fine mist. This mist enters a large chamber, imagine a room-sized cylinder, where hot air at 200 to 300 degrees Celsius flows in a controlled pattern. The mist droplets are so small that their surface area to volume ratio is massive. This means water evaporates almost instantly when they hit the hot air. We're talking milliseconds. The dried coffee particles fall to the bottom of the chamber and get collected. The particles are lightweight, fine, and dissolve quickly in hot water. But there's a cost. Those milliseconds of exposure to 200 degrees Celsius air destroy volatile aromatic compounds. The Maillard products that give coffee its roasted character survive, but the lighter aromatics, the fruity, floral, complex notes, are mostly gone. What remains is a base coffee flavor, bitter, somewhat flat, lacking the aromatic complexity of fresh brewed coffee. Spray-dried instant is what most people encounter in supermarket jars. It dissolves instantly. It's cheap to produce, but it tastes distinctly different from brewed coffee. Freeze drying produces about 10% of instant coffee, typically the premium products. It's more expensive and time-consuming, but it preserves more aromatic compounds. The concentrated coffee extract is frozen to minus 40 degrees Celsius or lower. This creates solid coffee ice. The frozen slabs are broken into granules and placed in a vacuum chamber. At low enough pressure, below 0.006 bar, ice sublimates. It turns directly from solid to vapor without passing through a liquid phase. This is the same process that slowly dries out food in your freezer if it's not sealed properly. In the vacuum chamber, the ice slowly sublimates over 12 to 24 hours. What's left is dried coffee with a porous, sponge-like structure. These are the irregular brown granules you see in premium instant coffee jars. Because the coffee never gets hot during this process, more volatile aromatic compounds survive. Freeze-dried instant coffee smells more like fresh coffee than spray-dried does. It's not identical. You're still missing the aromatics that evaporate during concentration, but it's noticeably closer. The trade-off is cost. Freeze-drying requires expensive equipment, significant energy, and much longer processing time. This is why freeze-dried instant costs 2 to 3 times more than spray-dried. Fresh brewed coffee contains over 800 volatile aromatic compounds. These are the molecules that create coffee's smell and much of its flavor. They're called volatile because they evaporate easily. That's why coffee smells so strong. During instant coffee processing, you lose most of these compounds at 3 stages. Concentration. Even at reduced pressure, evaporating water takes aromatic compounds with it. Aroma recovery systems capture some of this, but not all. Drying. Spray drying's high temperatures destroy heat-sensitive aromatics. Freeze drying preserves more, but some loss still occurs. Storage. Instant coffee is hygroscopic. It absorbs moisture from the air. This degrades remaining aromatics over time. This is why instant coffee in an opened jar tastes worse after a few months. The compounds that survive are the more stable ones: caffeine, chlorogenic acids, and melanoidins, which are roast flavor compounds. Coffee oils also don't survive well. These oils carry flavor and create mouthfeel in brewed coffee. In instant coffee, most oils are removed during processing because they cause the powder to clump and go rancid during storage. Instant coffee solves specific problems that matter to millions of people. You don't need any equipment beyond a kettle and a cup. In office settings, when camping, while traveling, or in any situation where brewing equipment isn't practical or available, instant coffee makes sense. Properly stored instant coffee lasts years without degrading significantly. For people who only drink coffee occasionally or who live in areas without reliable access to fresh coffee, this longevity is essential. Every cup tastes the same. There's no variation from brewing technique, water temperature, or grind size. You know exactly what you're getting every time you make a cup. In some markets, fresh coffee beans aren't readily available or are prohibitively expensive. Instant coffee is globally distributed and economically accessible almost everywhere. Instant coffee isn't trying to replicate the experience of carefully brewed specialty coffee. It's solving different problems for different situations. Instant coffee is a legitimate industrial achievement. Taking brewed coffee and removing 98.5% of its water while keeping the remaining solid shelf-stable and redissolvable requires sophisticated engineering and chemistry. The flavor difference from fresh brewed coffee isn't a flaw, it's a trade-off. Understanding how instant coffee is made doesn't mean you need to stop drinking it or switch to another method. It just means you know what you're getting. Industrially processed coffee solids that dissolve quickly and taste consistent, optimized for convenience and cost rather than aromatic complexity. The choice of what to drink is yours. At least now you know what's actually happening in that jar.